player who sits at the absolute top of the hierarchy. The one name that breaks every rule is... Before we get there, we need to understand the levels of greatness that came before him. Because his throne only makes sense if you understand why nobody else can sit there. And there is also a surprise reveal at the end. A name so undeniable, so untouchable, that it breaks every rule we're about to set. Make sure you stay till the end because that final reveal alone is worth the entire video. But first, let's build up to it. 10 players, 4 tiers, one list that is going to split the internet in half. I've spent a long time building this ranking, going back and forth, second-guessing myself, changing my mind more times than I'd like to admit. And I'm still not fully at peace with every placement. But that's the thing about football. Nobody ever is. But here's the twist. You won't know who these players are until I reveal them. Every tier is a reveal. Every card is a moment. Before we start, let's talk about the tiers. This isn't just tier 4 to tier 1. Each tier has its own identity, its own aura, its own level of greatness. We start with the icons, players who transcended the game and left a cultural mark far beyond the pitch. Then we move into the legends, players who didn't just dominate their era, they defined what football greatness even means. After that, the titans, players so powerful, so complete, they bent the entire sport to their will. And at the absolute summit, the untouchable, the pinnacle, the ceiling, the one tier that only the truly chosen can reach. And then there's something else, something at the very end that doesn't fit into any of this. You'll see. This ranking isn't just about who scored the most goals or won the most trophies, although that matters. This list is built on 4 things: trophies and legacy, peak performance, era dominance, and cultural impact on the game. Every player on this list has been measured against all 4. Not just 1, not just 2, all 4. Now, full transparency, this is my personal list, which means yes, there is bias, there's nostalgia. There might even be a little bit of madness in some of these placements. Some of you will watch this and nod along. Some of you will watch this and genuinely question my football knowledge. Both reactions are valid. Because there is no objectively correct GOAT list. Never has been. Never will be. What there is debate. And that debate is exactly what makes this sport the greatest thing humanity has ever created. So, 4 tiers, 10 players, one list that will have you arguing for weeks. Let's begin with the icons. To understand this tier, you have to understand that these aren't just great players, they are symbols. And no one symbolized dominance quite like our first reveal. He didn't just score goals. He redefined what a forward could be. He made world-class defenders look like they were moving in slow motion, while he was just getting started. Born in Les Ulis, Paris, a kid from the suburbs with a stride so long and pace so lethal, the world wasn't ready for him. Monaco gave him his first taste. Then came Juventus, a brief struggle before he found his home. Arsenal. That's where the world changed. 8 seasons, 228 goals. He didn't just play in the Premier League. He owned it. A brief, trophy-laden stop at Barcelona followed. But the king? The king lived at Highbury. And the legend is Thierry Henry. 2 Premier League titles. A World Cup winners' medal from 1998. 4 golden boots. And a stat that still feels fake. 24 goals and 20 assists in a single league season. Pure dominance. Thierry Henry, the predator who made it look like art. That is a hell of a way to start a list, right? But we're just warming up. Let's move to the next player reveal in this tier. Some players are loud. They demand your attention. But this next man? He changed the game without you even realizing he was there. Until it was too late. Born in the tiny village of Fuentealbilla, a kid who left home at 12 to join La Masia, crying every night because he missed his family, unaware that he was about to become the heartbeat of a nation. It was Barcelona, from start to finish. He was the silent partner in the greatest midfield trio the world has ever seen. Xavi provided the map, Messi provided the finish. But this man, he was the magic. He didn't run, he glided. He didn't pass, he whispered to the ball. And somehow, every single time, the ball listened. And the legend we're talking about is Andrés Iniesta. 9 La Liga titles, 4 Champions Leagues, and of course, the goal. The one in the 116th minute that gave Spain its first ever World Cup. 91% pass accuracy for 15 years straight. That's not football. That's physics. Andrés Iniesta, the man who proved you don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be the most important. A true icon. 2 down, 2 to go. Let's see who's next on this tier. Now, if Iniesta was the silence, this next man was the roar. He didn't just play football, he danced with it. And the whole world stopped to watch. Porto Alegre, Brazil. Raised on the streets where Joga Bonito wasn't a slogan. It was a way of life. Gremio saw the spark. PSG saw the flare. But when he touched down in Barcelona, that's when the world stopped spinning. He brought joy back to a club that had forgotten how to smile. Every touch was a brushstroke. Every dribble was a performance. Those 2 years at the absolute peak of his powers were unlike anything football had ever seen. Even the rival fans at the Bernabeu had to stand up and applaud. They had no choice. And the icon is Ronaldinho. A World Cup in 2002, the 2005 Ballon d'Or, 2 FIFA World Player of the Year awards. But the real stat? The millions of kids around the world who picked up a football for the very first time, just because they saw him smile. Ronaldinho, the magician, the one who reminded us why we fell in love with this game in the first place. But not every career ends as a fairy tale. Let's close out Tier 4 with our final reveal. He could have been the greatest of all time. Depending on who you ask, maybe he still is. But for most of the world, he remains the most talented what-if in the history of this sport. Mogi das Cruzes, Brazil, the heir to the throne. A boy who was already a global superstar before he even left his own country. Santos was a circus of highlights that the world couldn't look away from. Then Barcelona came calling, and he stepped into the greatest front 3 the game has ever seen. Him, Suarez, and Messi. The MSN. Unstoppable. Unforgettable. Then came the move that shook the entire footballing world. 222 million euros to PSG. The biggest transfer in history. He went chasing his own legacy, chasing the Ballon d'Or, chasing the one thing that always felt just out of reach. The injuries came. The criticism followed. But the talent never, ever left. And it's none other than Neymar, a Champions League winner, Brazil's all-time leading goal scorer. Yes, more than Pele. Over 400 career goals. And more successful dribbles per 90 minutes than almost anyone in the modern era. Neymar, the bridge between old-school flair and the modern game. Polarizing? Absolutely. An icon? Without question. That's Tier 4. The icons. The players who made us feel something. Who made us fall in love with the beautiful game all over again. But now we climb. Because the icons were only the beginning. This is where the game gets its textbooks written. Welcome to Tier 3. The Legends. Let's start with the first player on this tier. He didn't play football. He invented a new way of thinking about it. Before him, the game had positions. After him, it had a philosophy. Every player on the pitch was a weapon. Every movement had a purpose. The goalkeeper? A sweeper. The fullbacks? Attackers. The system? Total. Football would never be played the same way again. Born in Amsterdam, on a street corner where the ball was his first language, Ajax raised him. Ajax worshipped him. 3 European Cups in a row. A dynasty built on a single idea: that football is a game you play with your brain. Then came 1974, the World Cup. He dragged the Netherlands to the final with the whole world watching his Orange Revolution. They didn't win, but he left with something bigger: the golden ball, and a legacy that outlived every trophy on the planet. He even turned coaching into art, building Barcelona's dream team and delivering their first ever European Cup in 1992. But long before that, there was a move: the Cruyff turn, a single piece of skill that became a monument. And the legend is Johan Cruyff. 3 Ballon d'Ors, 3 consecutive European Cups, 6 Eredivisie titles, the 1974 World Cup Golden Ball, and 33 goals in 48 caps for his country. But the real stat? Every modern team that plays with freedom? That's his fingerprint. Johan Cruyff, the revolutionary. The man who didn't just play the game, he rewired it. And the world never recovered. From the architect to the artist. If Cruyff taught the game how to think, this next man taught it how to feel. He didn't dominate with power. He dominated with grace. Let's see who's next on this tier. Raised in La Castellane, the roughest quarter of Marseille. A kid from the projects who moved with the elegance of a ballet dancer and the vision of a chess grandmaster. Cannes saw him. Bordeaux refined him. But it was at Juventus that the world realized what they were watching. And then came Real Madrid. He was the heartbeat of France's golden generation. The number 10 who didn't just play, he conducted. And on one night, July the 12th, 1998, in front of the Stade de France, he did the unthinkable. 2 headers, 2 goals, and a nation's first World Cup. The King of France had arrived. 2 years later, he added the European Championship. Then came that volley in Glasgow. A Champions League final. A ball dropping from the sky, and a left foot that turned physics into poetry. The most beautiful goal in the history of the final. They say he had the Midas touch. Everything he touched turned to gold. And the name is Zinedine Zidane. A World Cup winner, a European champion, the 1998 Ballon d'Or, 3-time FIFA World Player of the Year, and in 2006, after a career of perfection, he nearly won a second World Cup before walking away in the most dramatic exit football has ever staged. He even took the golden ball from a tournament he didn't win. Zinedine Zidane, elegance incarnate. The game has never seen grace like this. And it will never see it again. From the artist to the animal. Because next up, football's purest explosion of power. A force of nature that made defenders look like children. There have been great strikers. And then, there was him. The original phenomenon. He wasn't just fast. He wasn't just strong. He was both. At the same time, in the same stride, and there was no answer. Goalkeepers didn't know where to look. Defenders didn't know what to do. They just knew that when he ran at them, it was already over. The streets of Rio raised him. Cruzeiro introduced him. PSV sharpened him. And then Barcelona. 47 goals in 49 games. A single season that broke every rule of what a striker could be. Inter Milan paid the world for him. And then, the world almost lost him. 2 knee surgeries, a career on the brink. Doctors whispered that he'd never be the same. And then, 2002, the World Cup final. 2 goals, a trophy, and a comeback so complete that even his doubters stood up and applauded. The phenomenon was back, and he was still the the best on the planet. The man is Ronaldo Nazario. 2 World Cups, 8 goals at the 2002 World Cup, the Golden Boot, 2 Ballon d'Ors, 3 FIFA World Player of the Year awards, 62 goals and 98 caps for Brazil, 414 career goals. And the fear he put in every defense he ever faced? That number doesn't exist yet. Ronaldo, the original phenomenon, the proof that football, at its absolute peak, is a superpower. That's Tier 3. The legends. 3 names who changed the game forever. But legends? Legends can be matched. The next 2? They can't. Welcome to Tier 2. The Titans. The architects of glory. The first player is a man who didn't just play football. He became it. Some players are adored. Some are admired. And then there are the ones who are worshipped. The ones whose names become religion. And no religion ever started with a more complicated god than this man. Born in Villa Fiorito, a dust bowl on the edge of Buenos Aires. He didn't learn football. He fought for it. Every touch was survival. Every dribble was defiance. And by the time he reached Napoli, he wasn't just a player. He was a miracle worker, dragging a small, struggling club to the top of Italy, not once, but twice. 2 Serie A titles, a UEFA Cup. The south of Italy still hasn't finished thanking him. But the moment that defined him, 1986, Mexico, the World Cup, against England. He scored the most controversial goal in football history. And then, 4 minutes later, he scored the greatest goal in football history, the hand of God, and the goal of the century. In the same game, no player has ever lived so much in 90 minutes. He carried Argentina to glory on his back. He dragged them to a second final in 1990. He was flawed, chaotic, brilliant, broken, and absolutely untouchable at his best. They gave him everything he needed to be perfect, and he chose to be human instead. And it's none other than Diego Maradona, a World Cup winner, captain, the 1986 Golden Ball, 2 Serie A titles with Napoli, the UEFA Cup, 34 goals in 91 caps. And in the year 2000, he was voted the FIFA Player of the Century. The only debate? The man standing next to him on that podium, Diego Armando Maradona, the flawed genius, the debate starter, the god of football. Immortal? For a man like this, that's not a title. That's a promise. 1 Argentine god and 1 Brazilian king. Because if Maradona was the magic, this man was the measure. He arrived before television, before social media, before the world even knew how to watch greatness, and he still became the most famous athlete on the planet. A kid from Três Corações, Brazil, who scored goals the way other kids breathe. At 17 years old, he went to a World Cup. He scored 6 goals. He scored twice in the final. And he lifted the trophy as a teenager. The world had never seen anything like it. It never has since. 2 more World Cups followed. 1962, 1970. No one else in the history of the game has won 3. He scored over 1,000 goals in his career. He made Santos a global brand. He made Brazil the nation of football. He made kings stand up when he walked into a room. They called him O Rei, the king. And he never once asked for the crown. It was simply offered. And the legend we're talking about is Pele. 3 World Cups, the only man in history to do it. 77 goals and 92 caps for Brazil. 643 goals for Santos in official matches. 1,279 goals in his career. And the love of a planet that still calls him by one name. Pele, the global icon, the smooth transition to godhood, the king, the name football whispers when it wants to remind the world what greatness looks like. That's tier 2. 2 immortals, 2 gods, 1 stage, and not enough room in history for both of their egos. The debate will rage on until the end of time itself. Maradona or Pele? A question that has broken friendships, started arguments in bars across the globe, and will never, ever have a final answer. But before we ascend to the final tier, remember this. There's a mystery card reveal waiting at the very end. A surprise that was promised at the start of this journey. A name that will redefine everything you thought you knew about greatness. So stay with us. Watch until the end. Because what's coming next will change the conversation forever. And now, let's move to the last tier. Every tier had a theme. The icons made us feel, the legends made us think, the titans made us believe. But this man, he didn't make us believe in magic. He made magic look like work. The human goat, the pinnacle of human perfection. He was born on a small island off the coast of Portugal, in a house that didn't have much. He left home as a teenager with one dream. He arrived at Manchester United as a skinny kid with too many tricks and a coach who saw what no one else could. And then he began, breaking records, breaking defenses, breaking every ceiling the game had ever built. Real Madrid, 450 goals, 3 Champions Leagues in a row, 5 in total, 4 Ballon d'Ors in 4 years. And when his country needed him most, he delivered the European Championship in 2016. The trophy Portugal had waited 60 years to touch. And he wasn't done. He scored in 6 different World Cups. No one else has ever done that. He is still scoring as we speak. The records don't fit on a card anymore. 900 goals passed. Now he's chasing 1,000. 140 goals in the Champions League. A number that looks like a typo. 146 international goals. More than any human being has ever scored for his country. And when he steps on the pitch, at any age, he still expects to win. That's not arrogance. That's the standard. The player who sits at the absolute top of the hierarchy. The one name that breaks every rule is Cristiano Ronaldo. 5 Ballon d'Ors, 5 Champions Leagues, 140 Champions League goals, all-time record, almost 1,000 career goals and counting, the all-time international top scorer in men's football, a European champion, a Nations League champion, and the man who turned hard work into the most dangerous weapon the sport has ever seen, Cristiano Ronaldo, the human goat, the man who took human perfection and made it look routine. This is the summit, and this is the peak of football. We've traveled from the icons who gave the game its soul to the legends who gave it a brain. We ascended to the titans who became the gods of their nations and finally reached the untouchable summit, the peak of what a human being can achieve through sheer will and perfection. But now, it's time. The moment we've all been waiting for. The mystery card. The reveal that will change everything. Are you ready? But I know exactly what all of you are thinking right now. You're looking at this list, you're looking at the summit, and you're feeling that something is missing. A name that hasn't been spoken. You're thinking it because you know the truth. This list was built for humans. It was built for those who mastered the game. But there is one name that doesn't fit here. Because he didn't just master the game, he turned every touch into pure magic, bending the sport to his will in ways that left the world speechless. And standing above it all, the one name that transcends every tier, Lionel Messi, the GOAT of GOATs. We talk about great seasons, but in 2012, this man scored 91 goals in a single calendar year. A number so absurd, it sounds like a glitch in a video game. We talk about consistency, but he has 8 Ballon d'Ors. Not 3, not 5, 8. a record that will likely never be touched as long as the sport is played. We talked about carrying a nation. He didn't just carry Argentina, he became their heartbeat. He dragged them to the grandest stages of the world time and time again, reaching 3 major international finals in a row, and ultimately, in 2022, he delivered the greatest World Cup performance in history to bring the trophy home. 4 Champions Leagues, the most assists in the history of the sport, the only player to ever score 5 goals in a single Champions League match. He didn't just play the game, he saw it in slow motion while the rest of the world was running at full speed. Cristiano Ronaldo is the best of us, the peak of human effort. But Messi? Messi is the exception, the alien, the one who played by a set of rules that only he understood. So now you've seen it all. The icons, the legends, the titans, the untouchable, and the alien. Who did I miss? Who is ranked too high? Who is too low? Let me know in the comments, because this debate, this passion, is exactly what makes football the most beautiful game on earth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because the next video might just change your mind all over again. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.